TCL is a proud sponsor of the Score North Studios. Enjoy more of the things you love with TCL. These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
So executive producer here, little damage control, because we'll take you behind. We're going to take the listeners behind the scenes. We have configured our board differently, right? And because we are no longer feeding the pot that feeds Phil and also our clips, the audio isn't coming through for that clip onto our audience. So that's why if you notice I clipped.
So we could play Woj, but we'd have to read his lips.
We'd have to read his lips. Yes, we'd have to read his lips.
I'm kind of up for the challenge. I mean, it's not going to help the radio.
Or just do your best Woj.
Yeah.
Just do a Woj impersonation.
I mean,
that might be good.
Reckless speculation.
Actually, the real, people think we're going to sit here and talk about Timberwolves trade rumors on the episode today. The real thing that I want to talk about is we all have button bars now, baby. It's going to be trouble.
Reckless speculation.
If you hated the button bar drops before, you're going to hate it even more now.
Game, JR.
So Timberwolves trade rumors here with the trade deadline tomorrow. We'll get to that in a second, but thank you to our new friends at PXG Minneapolis. If you are a great golfer or if you're a crappy golfer like Declan and myself, if you just love golf, PXG Minneapolis is a golfer's paradise. They're here to improve your game. They're here to improve your look. The new Gen 4 golf clubs have landed. These drivers, fairways, hybrids, and irons are PXG's flagship clubs, and hands down, this is saying something because PXG makes amazing clubs, the best performing sticks they've ever made. So check them out. PXG Minneapolis in Southdale Center. You can also get some great golf threads.
Yeah, where's my gear? I want my gear.
Judd,
I don't care.
You don't really have a golfer's body. Like, not that I do, but you don't have like that Dustin Johnson lanky body.
Dude,
we could probably find something.
I have the ultimate golfer's bod circa 1985, okay? Colin Montgomery? Like, come on. Tiger ruined it. Tiger ruined it for golf. Tiger and back in the day, David Duval, who got in unbelievable shape and was really good for like 2 years or something like that. No, look at the 80s, man. Don't forget, Fat Jack used to smoke in the 60s on the course, and he was fat.
Dude, that was the best. Yeah, there was like a 30-year period in the 90s where guys would take a drag off their cig, set it down on the fairway grass. All right, grab their 9-iron.
Craig Stadler.
People don't do that in 2020. I mean, that's what I'll do. Is that was a thing back in the 80s?
Smoke while you golf?
If someone offers me a cigarette and I have a couple alcohols in me, I will take a smoke.
I'll caddy for you. If you're going to actively smoke, I will come caddy just to drink and watch that.
You know, like peer pressure. Peer pressure applies to Declan if I have some alcohol in me. So yes.
What is that, peer pressure or just the need for a smoke? Like I know both. A lot of people that like to smoke once they start drinking.
No, I mean, yeah, if I'm drinking and someone offers me one, I will 9 out of 10 times I will say yes.
And don't tell me that I don't have a golfer's body when noted professional golfer from Wayzata, Tim Herron, is a golfer, okay? If you could be called lumpy in golf, then I've got a golfer's body.
Under boob sweat.
Oh, God.
I think his kid's golfing at Tonka now, actually. Good
apologies to PXG Minneapolis for everything that just happened there in the last 2 minutes. But PXG Minneapolis in Southdale Center. Find out more at pxg.com/Minneapolis. You guys want to dive into some juicy Timberwolves trade rumors here?
Absolutely.
You guys ready for this?
Yep.
Reckless speculation.
All right. I was just looking for an excuse to hit another button. New York Post yesterday. Actually, I think maybe early this morning this came out. Aaron Gordon formally has asked for a trade from the Orlando Magic, The Athletic reported this week. The Portland Trailblazers, Boston Celtics, Houston Rockets, Minnesota Timberwolves, and Denver Nuggets have all shown interest in acquiring Aaron Gordon, per report. So the Wolves in the mix with 4 other teams. Quote from Aaron himself, "There's been times where I just expressed my frustration to management, frustration with the losses, the injuries." By the way, let's stop right there. So he has gone to the Orlando Magic and said, guys, I can't do this anymore. The franchise is a dumpster fire, and we lose too much, and there's too many injured players. Timberwolves come walking in the room. Hey,
you want to play it for us?
Yeah, we don't have any problems with losses or injuries.
You think you've seen dysfunction previously? Have we got some dysfunction for you?
The quote continues, the way we've been playing, how many losses have accumulated over the years, it's just my frustration kind of boiling over, I would say. I think a lot of people share that sentiment with me of frustration. So the NBA trade deadline is tomorrow. Aaron Gordon, he's 25 years old. He's been in the league for 7 years, but he's only 25 years old. He's in the third season of a 4-year, $80 million contract. So he gets, I want to say he gets like $16 million this year. And the next year it actually goes down to like 15 million.
Yep.
Something like that.
It's 2021-22 cap hit of 16.4 million in the last year of the contract.
Okay. And then he becomes an unrestricted free agent following the season after. Mm-hmm. So my quick thought on this, obviously teams are interested and intrigued. I think teams look at him. He's, in terms of how good is he? So he's 244th in the league in win shares this year. I like to use some of those advanced metrics, those like all-encompassing, the account for your offense, your defense, your efficiency. And he's never been an efficient offensive player. He takes probably too many threes for the amount of makes. He's not like a monster rebounder for a power forward, even though he can rise up and put a basketball through his legs 8 times and dunk it. So I think he's full of potential. And he's sort of like a diet Blake Griffin from when Blake was pre-injury and in his prime, but he's still young enough to where if he got into the right system with the right teammates, you could see maybe another level from Aaron Gordon. Mm-hmm. So I think the potential of Aaron Gordon is interesting. This team is starting Jake Layman at power forward on a regular basis. They need someone. Yep. And so I'm intrigued from that standpoint, but he's going to get paid in a year from now. I don't know that the Wolves can afford to give up an arm and a leg and pay him without getting rid of D'Lo's contract at some point. So I'm a little torn on this, but I'm very interested, but I'm a little bit torn on giving up an arm and a leg in a bidding war for Aaron Gordon. Your thoughts?
Unless I am making a trade that is getting rid of players that I actively don't want, I don't see or understand any rush to make trades. The deadline doesn't matter to me. You are going to, things have gone so terribly wrong for the most part. And since you made a coaching change, I think what you need to do is push through the rest of this year, get through it, get to the offseason and evaluate what Chris Finch needs and what Chris Finch wants. And to try and fit in a piece that is almost like, well, this will improve things now. Who cares at this point? Like, to what? To what degree? We're no longer the worst team in the West. We're above the Rockets, who just had a 20-game losing streak and still maintain being above you. The other thing, too, is what you sort of broached there, Phil, which is Aaron Gordon's role here. And if Aaron Gordon was all into coming in and playing lockdown defense and at power forward, 2 things this team desperately needs, that's awesome. But if he's coming in, going into the last year of his contract, my guess is he's saying, I want the ball too. I'd like to shoot as well to establish my value either with your franchise or elsewhere. That's problem 2, because I don't need that. Like I have to figure out already going into 2021-22 who's going to get the basketball and when and how I'm going to play. And what I don't need now is, okay, the power forward position is solved, and we now have 4 guys who need to shoot, okay? Like, I need to have clarification on who's going to do what and who is potentially the star. And if you are like, well, yeah, I'm going in the last year of my contract, I need my points, that's a problem. And then the last thing is this. What's the ask from the Magic? Because I've seen two proposed trades that have been thrown out with different names, but the only thing in common with both those trades is protected first-round picks. So if the Wolves could trade a 2023 3 lottery pick that's protected though, so they would give up the pick if it fell outside the lottery. I'm not sure I'm anxious given what's going to be happening with Golden State now. I'm not sure I'm super anxious though to be trading my first-round picks right now. So to come back to my first point on this, I don't see the rush to make a deal here. I could certainly see trying to clear people off my own books, but I don't believe that answering your power forward question right now is the most important thing. I think that can be taken care of in the summer.
So, yeah, this is, I sort of wish this was more of a summer discussion, but it seems like it's coming to a head now. Like this is the perfect type of thing that you'd like to be able to have the summer to survey everything, right? To see, do you have your, because your decision to potentially trade for Aaron Gordon might also depend on whether you have a top 3 pick or whether Golden State gets it, right? Like, it would be nice to know all the information about your offseason before you have to make this decision.
Yes.
But obviously, if there's 4 other teams in the bidding and Aaron Gordon has gone to the Magic in the last week and said, I want out, trade me now, this thing could come to a head on Thursday. So the timing isn't perfect here. I don't think, like, he's never been a shot hog. He's never been a guy that needs to like impose 20 shots on a game. You know, he will as needed. And I think he actually scored like 30 or 35 in a game in the last week. I don't watch every minute of Orlando Magic basketball. My apologies. But I don't, like, if you put him on this team, I don't think you'd have an issue with him like elbowing his way in and trying to, you know, usurp Karl-Anthony Towns in the pecking order or Anthony Edwards. I think the biggest issue with a trade is the things that he's frustrated with in Orlando. Like, why are they any different in Minnesota? Now, we look at the Timberwolves and say, all right, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Anthony Edwards has shown enough signs, and Karl-Anthony Towns, like, they've played pretty well for the most part outside of the last couple of games since the All-Star break. Like, there's some positivity here, but league-wide, I don't think Aaron Gordon's looking at a list of the teams that have made their interest known. Portland, Boston, the Nuggets, the Rockets are kind of garbage right now, but he's not looking at that list and saying, ooh, Timberwolves.
Yeah.
You know? So what's the likelihood that he would even be willing to sign an extension? I think the only way that I would make this trade is if I knew I was getting a guy that wanted to be here for like a 4-year extension beyond the last year of his contract. And if you're him and you know that some of these other teams, these good contending teams have interest in you, why would you agree to a contract extension? You'd want to just play out the last year of your contract. So again, the timing of it isn't perfect. To me, the quickest way for the Wolves to get another piece to the puzzle that can help push them to the next level is to somehow get the number 1 overall pick again against all odds. And I get that they have the worst record in the league, but the lottery is set up so that the Wolves have a greater chance, regardless of what their record is at the end of the year, of giving that pick back to Golden State than they do of getting the first, second, or third pick. So you're going to have to cross your fingers on this. But I think if you could somehow find a way to draft Cade Cunningham and offload that D'Angelo Russell contract somewhere without giving up a future first-round pick, and now you have a backcourt of Anthony Edwards and Cade Cunningham and Karl-Anthony Towns, that would be the ideal option. But that's like, you don't have any control over that. Like, you are crossing your fingers and praying to the basketball gods that scenario happens.
Right. You
could swing a trade for Aaron Gordon, but all the factors we just mentioned make it unlikely that that you're going to get the deal that you want there. So
if this team was run by or owned by a person who you trusted, I would say that person should step in and say, Gerson, if you can offload players, that's fine. But we're not making any significant moves until we know our path. Because this, again, an Aaron Gordon trade to me would feel like, let's throw this against the wall. Because one, he would come here, my guess is, and say, I'll sign an extension maybe someday, not now. It just feels like it would be this panicked, oh my God, this seems like a good move right now. I think the Wolves, and look, I'm as tired of this playing out as everybody else, but I think the Wolves need to get to the end of this season, take a deep breath, evaluate things, and Finch and Rosas and the basketball operations of that team needs to sit down and settle on a direction finally. What is that direction? And does that include D'Lo? Because it might not, and that's fair. Like, the only thing that I can tell you unequivocally right now about the direction of this team, in my opinion, is Cat right now, Ant right now, and I think you've got some nice pieces of a young core, but D'Lo, no idea, no clue. I don't even know that for where this team is going to go style-wise with Finch, that he's a fit. We don't know that. So I'm not doing anything right now that necessarily shapes the future of my basketball team. I would be happy to make some trades, though, if you would like to take, let me see, who could teams take? Oh, how about Ricky Rubio? You want a Rubio? I got a Rubio for you. That one I would be very happy about.
That contract matches, by the way. I think in terms of just finding an asset worth $16 million, or I think Rubio's making what, 17 million or something, somewhere in that ballpark, 15, 17. So from a contract matching standpoint, he'd probably be a chip that you would send back to Orlando in addition to like a first round pick or something of value. That's you'd have to send them something of value clearly for Ben Gordon.
I mean, they do have their power for the future in Jaden McDaniels. So I really don't even know why we need Aaron
who
Gordon.
I think who I have read untouchable.
Untouchable.
He's untouchable.
Yeah. From this guy right here.
That's good, Declan. You listen. We have patted you on the bleeping back how many times for that?
Yeah. How many times do you need to ask
Phil
for
has
credit
too.
for this now?
I need it. I'm a millennial and I need validation. so I need it.
Well, again, then congratulations. You called it, and the Wolves blogosphere mocked you.
That's fine.
I think once per show we should just take a timeout and give Declan the affirmation that he needs in life, career-wise, whatever it may be.
Especially considering my clip didn't play the moment we started off the show. So off to a roaring start.
Does that mean, like, if we want to talk about Ben Johnson, so we can't play video clips right now because of our setup. So we could play audio clips, but we have mostly video clips.
Correct.
So we have to figure this out.
Yeah, we'd have to figure that out. Actually, I think we have an audio clip with Ben Johnson. So we probably do have that at least.
Yeah. So while you find that, I'll set it up this way. And again, thank you to our friends at Federated for helping power this discussion about Gopher basketball. Federated's been a longtime partner of Gophers athletics and also other teams in town, Timberwolves included. And as a business owner in the state of Minnesota, Federated is here to help you with peace of mind, risk management. They recently launched My Shield, the online client destination for risk management resources. In short, they come to the table with resources and expertise that help cover your you-know-what as a business owner. If you're already a Federated Insurance client, what are you waiting for? Get registered today so you can jump on My Shield, federatedinsurance.com, or download the app to find out more information about this powerful tool. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Also, our friends at Wamatech. That's right, Wamatech, Wamatech. They're helping you with those broken down phones, tablets, and laptops. You don't have to break the bank to get a new device. Wamatech is a trusted supplier of pre-owned phones, tablets, laptops, and they source those devices directly to pass the savings on to you guys. They'll even buy your old device for cash. Buy, sell, trade in, whatever you need. Wamatech.com. Wamatech.com. Did Ben Johnson win the press conference yesterday? Did he win the press conference? Do we have some clips?
We don't have the audio clips, no, but we do. Obviously, we have our rousing, which is always good to go.
What is going on here? What has happened? I left yesterday. Okay. Things were fine.
So this is so in the weeds.
Very much in the weeds.
Since people are probably dying to know, why are these guys a technical train wreck today? So with me out in Washington and you guys in the Twin Cities, we've been tinkering the last couple of weeks with our video settings, our audio settings. We have a studio that is from like the late 80s or the early 90s. We're basically driving like a 1991 Plymouth Acclaim, and we're trying to trick it out as a new car with like Apple CarPlay and stuff. Okay. And so Declan and our engineers have done an amazing job of this over the last couple of years because Score North is such a digital entity compared to our old AM radio, AM 1500. And so we are using one product for audio, another product for video, and we changed some of the settings to make the audio sound better yesterday while maintaining the video feed. Okay. So we're sort of using two pieces of technology here. And in that process, we've essentially cut the ability to use the audio feed on the video platform. So when Declan plays video clips, we can't hear the audio right now.
Mm-hmm.
No. So that's the over explanation.
No.
That's fun.
So Declan, you're going to have to do your best Ben Johnson impression now and sum up his thoughts on how to fix Gopher basketball.
Sure. Well, I did listen to the clip at least earlier today, and he basically
translate it for us.
He basically was saying the biggest priority for Gopher basketball is keeping the in-state recruits. That's the biggest thing, and also getting the barn back to a rocking arena that at one time was one of the best arenas in town and in all of college basketball. I saw Richard Pitino's funny little chirp back at him this morning on Twitter, which honestly was pretty damn great. Richard.
Yeah, read that.
Yeah, Richard Pitino tweeted out, congrats to my former assistant, Ben Johnson, on getting the Gopher basketball gig. He will kill it there. I taught him everything he needs to know especially about in-state recruiting. I love a man with a sense of humor, self-awareness. Richard Pitino, bravo,
Oh, Pitino
my man.
has that in spades.
Yeah, bravo, my friend.
He has that definitely.
He does. I can tell you, I'm not going to pretend to be best friends with him, but like having been around him enough, I can tell you he's probably seething over the way that this has been painted since he left. That the whole thing needs to be thrown out, and he was garbage as an in-state recruiter. I think he would say, well, wait a second, I got 3 of the top 5 recruits just a couple of years ago. The last couple of years haven't gone well, but he handled that well. Like to send that tweet out, it kind of eases the tension, and it's like, all right, whatever. He's in on the joke. But Jeb, what did you think? I mean, that was really with Coyle and with Ben Johnson. The main theme was we need to keep these kids. I mean, Mark Coyle flat out said, we're not oblivious. We see the same rankings that you guys see, and we see these guys going and playing elsewhere. And so that's the main reason why Ben Johnson got this job.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, we've all talked about that going back how long now, about the deficiency in Pitino was basically twofold. I think there was a large faction of the fan base that rightfully so questions some of his in-game strategies and or game planning. And the most important thing, though, beyond that was recruiting and in-state. And this comes back to what I told you guys 2 days ago, I think. And that is when we talk about in-state recruiting, and even when we talk about the 5-star blue chip kids, the Gophers should not be laughed about as they're not going to get that. Are you serious? They're not going to get that. Oh, no. They'll get this. It's twofold. It's I understand that the majority of those guys right now certainly aren't coming here, but you at least need to be observed as being competitive. They're literally in your backyard. They hopefully grew up as a fan of your program. So to like laugh at you like you are this podunk city that or team that they have never heard of is insulting. Like the program needs to be on a par where they recruit Tyus Jones, and he's like, you know what? This is in the mix, and there's a good chance that I could go there. And hell, with the 5 stars, let's say you get one every 3 years. That's an improvement on what they've done now. The second thing is, as far as the scouting of these kids go, you need to identify the best of the next group. And that group is pretty damn good now. And by the way, that group has also grown in this state where you do have a lot of years where there are multiple Division I men's basketball talents playing high school basketball and AAU basketball here. You need to have, and I get it, it's tough, the ability to identify the best of that group and get them. And that's the difference between being successful and being fired. But in the case, I keep going back to this, Phil, in the case of McKinley Wright, he wanted to come here. And they went out and got, Isaiah Washington instead in New York. And he had a great resume. He was a New Yorker, or I believe the player of the year out there. So it was impressive. But when McKinley Wright is basically knocking on your door, begging to come there, you need to be aware of the fact that he's going to turn into a damn good player. And so the scouting of who's going to end up being the most successful from that next group, it's imperative that you're right about that.
Yeah, I had a chance yesterday. I did a little insiding yesterday. I talked to a couple people inside the program, within the know of the program, so to speak. And the initial reaction from in and around the program when this was announced was a little bit of shock, like, wow, okay. Okay, we love Ben, but if you look at, what does a Big Ten basketball coach resume look like? You had qualified, even if they're mid-major coaches like Ben Jacobson, right? The Northern Iowa coach who's been there for 15 years. There are guys with years and years, if not decades, of actual head coaching experience that would have loved this job. It would have been a pay increase for them. It would have been a step up in conference and competition. And so just like what the resume looks like for a coach to get a Big Ten job, this blind resume test, this doesn't necessarily equate to that. But so that was sort of the initial reaction. Just, I don't know about this. This feels like a bit of a stretch, right? We love him, but it feels like a bit of a stretch. But then the outpouring of positive reaction from former Gopher players, the the Jordan Murphys and even JB Bickerstaff, who I believe he came along before Ben Johnson played for the Gophers, but everyone going back to JB Bickerstaff, to Amir Coffey and Richard Coffey, Amir's dad, basically telling Doogie, yeah, I mean, all due respect to Pitino or not, I don't know. My guy wouldn't have played here or stayed here if not for Ben Johnson. So that outpouring, and then how well he did at the press conference, and just how confident and poised and charismatic in some ways he was, I think swayed some minds. So really, from a blind resume experience standpoint, there were other guys out there. Some of them may have been more expensive, and maybe that was a deal breaker. But it's very obvious that the one thing he possesses more than, even if you would have brought like an Eric Musselman in here, it would have taken Eric Musselman a couple of years to really get to know and get the trust of local AAU, local high school basketball coaches, right? Ben Johnson has that. So I think if he can bring in an experienced assistant, some sort of lead assistant, like Juwan Howard, I don't know if you guys watch Michigan, but Juwan Howard has Phil Martelli as his lead assistant.
That's awesome.
Phil Martelli coached at St. Joe's for 25 years, went to the Elite Eight with Jameer Nelson. I don't know if you're going to get the Phil Martelli equivalent here at Minnesota, but can you get someone that has some experience as a coach, like a head coach, that can help you with the fast-paced things that happen during the course of a game, and just things that you might not have experience with. Overall, I like it a lot more today than I did 24 or 48 hours ago, because of the validation from the Minnesota basketball community. And I think that's important. I think he needs that validation, or he's not going to get those kids to stay home and play for the Gophers.
I think it's impossible to pass judgment right now because he's young. And plus, the thing is, just as far as the totality of the picture of sports in the state when it comes to the professional teams and the Gophers, post-pandemic, things are going to change. Like, there's going to be people going back out for sure, and there's going to be crowds again. But during the course of the pandemic, a lot of people have taken pay cuts or lost their jobs, and a lot of companies probably aren't the same as they were a year ago at this time when the shutdown started. And so just the whole discussion about sports in this town, I am so interested to see where money goes, and is the loyalty that probably was previously there, like with Gopher football and Gopher basketball, staying there? Are people going to now make different decisions, which financially I think they probably have to? So Coyle is going to have to show some patience here, because what he hired Ben Johnson to do is going to take some time as well. And there's probably not going to be a surge of people going back to the barn when next season starts because of Ben Johnson. So this whole thing is probably going to take some time. But that's why it becomes so imperative and so important that when it comes to the local talent in this state, that the talent he does get, he can't miss on. He can't have two kids and be like, I took the wrong one. That's the thing that becomes the most important thing to me.
But here's the other thing, though. It's the Gophers aren't a national program. They're not. There's probably 20 to 25 national programs out there. Obviously the Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, Gonzaga has become a national program where those programs can essentially put a fishing line out and fish in the pond of who are the top 100 high school players in the country. We can sort of just put our vibe out there as a national program and attract those kids. Well, that's not the Gophers, but it kind of felt like Pitino recruited that way. Not that the Gophers were this big brand, but he recruited nationally, right? He had little pockets of national. He had different like AAU pockets out east and different places that when you get outside the state of Minnesota and you start recruiting nationally, whether it's for high school players, whether it's for transfers, you're now in the same recruiting pool as some of the best programs around. Not that you should ignore like California or New York. I'm not saying that, but you should, the core and the meat of your recruiting should take place in the state of Minnesota, especially because there's good basketball players here. And then you should supplement with a national fishing line. And it was almost like his plan was, I'm just going to go and I'm going to go get the best players and transfers nationally. How is that a scalable solution year to year from a recruiting standpoint? You're not going to be able to repeat that at Minnesota every single year. And that's why he had barren cupboards every other year. It seemed like when was it last year or the year before? I can't remember, but like you looked at the roster and you were like, who's going to play for the team next year? And then he brought in 5 transfers or whatever it was.
Before last season. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, there needs to be a better brand of Minnesota/Gophers basketball. And you need to be able to stick your flag in the ground and say, we play this style and we recruit in this state. And that's the way it's going to be. And if we happen to get someone from California or New York to come join the party, that's awesome too. But the core of what we do is based in the state of Minnesota.
So they're not a national program, but there is no good reason why they can't be competitive annually in the Big Ten. And I don't mean win the Big Ten on an annual basis, but I do mean be competitive. Like there's nothing, the conference is good. That's fantastic. That's fine. Okay. But the conference is not always great. And I don't think it's too much to ask for the Gopher program, given what's at their disposal, to finish annually in the top half of the Big Ten. I really don't. And we could talk all that we want about the barn, and well, the barn's not really sexy. And kid, if you bring a kid into the barn and it's empty, it's sort of a sterile old building, blah, blah, blah. But if you look at what they built as far as that athletes village goes now, practice facilities, go through that, it's competitive. There now is no excuse why the key revenue sports at that school aren't always competitive in their conference. Football and basketball should always be competitive. Like this whole thing about, well, it's been another terrible, like Pitino's lack of success in the Big Ten is not really excusable. Like I believe and Ben Johnson was here for it. The only year, I think there was 1 year in which he was above 500 in conference. Think about that.
Yep. It's I agree. The excuses used to be built on facilities, right? And
what Tubby always used.
And there's just not that many great high school players here. I mean, this is a great position for Ben Johnson to be in if he can handle it. And I think he can. I think his personality can. Okay, we got to run because write that down. Predictions are beckoning and calling.
Oh yeah,
mostly incorrect predictions for those of us not named Judd. Judd is now at the point where the majority of his predictions are correct, which I almost feel like is unsustainable. But Judd Zolgad is putting up, like, this is a Mike Trout MVP-like season, and we'll see if Judd can continue it. And write that down, Mackey and Judd.